Hello everyone and welcome to AWCI's webinar. My name is Taowin, AWCI's Education Program Manager, and today's webinar is Automatic Taping and Finishing. This webinar is presented and sponsored by AIMS and TapeTech. Before we start, a few housekeeping items. Attendees should be on mute throughout their whole presentation. Should you have a question at any time during today's broadcast, please submit it using the question box in your GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Handouts are available for download in the Handouts tab. And a recording of this presentation and all handouts will be sent to all registrants within the next couple of days. At this time, I would like to send it over to Robbie Worrell, Head of TapeTech, to begin the presentation. Welcome, Robbie.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to beautiful Swanee, Georgia, north of Atlanta, and the home of AIMS Tool Corporation and TapeTech Automatic Taping Tools, the worldwide leader in taping tools, second to none. My name is Robbie Worrell, and I'm the head of TapeTech. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today on drywall finishing using automatic taping tools. This will be the first of two of our fall seminars for AWCI. Our second will be in November, so be on the lookout for that on your schedule as well. A little bit about AIMS. AIMS is 85 years old, so in 1939, the AIMS company was born, and they invented at that point in time the very first taping tool. So for the next 40 years, that tool was what it was all about, how to go from hand finishing to automatic taping tool finishing from there. And in 1982, AIMS bought the name of TapeTech, so 42 years ago is when TapeTech was born. And since then, we've steadily been climbing the ladder to once again become the world's largest industry leader in automatic taping tools. In this building beside me you see here, we house our sales and marketing department, our multilingual customer service department, in-house engineers are on site. We also have the world's leading service department in what we call our Pro Service Plan, 10-year warranty on the TapeTech products. Inside, you'll also meet Mark Wilson as we go in. He'll lead today's webinar. He is our Director of Education and Training for all over the world, well known across the globe as Captain America and Captain Drywall. So the videos today will be about 30 minutes, hands-on. Mark will be doing some demoing and some speaking on how to use the tools, some key features of the tools, a little bit of maintenance on the product as well. In the last 10 or 15 minutes, we'll have Q&A. We'll have a list of what we call our FAQs that you may or may not be asking. Hopefully we'll provide you with some good information. Any questions you may come up with during the seminar, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll get to it as soon as we can. So once again, it's a beautiful day here in Swanee. Thank you for being part of the TapeTech webinar today. We'll see you inside with Mark.
Hello, this is Mark Wilson with TapeTech Tools. Today we'll be demonstrating the automatic taping and finishing process. The first phase of the process is the taping process. We'll be using the automatic taper, the loading pump, and the corner tools for internal angles. First, we have the loading pump. That on here we have what we call the gooseneck. The gooseneck is only used to fill the automatic taper. So we'll put the pump into the joint compound. Now I've pre-mixed this joint compound so it's ready to use. I'm going to prime the pump so the material comes out here at the end of the gooseneck before we attach the tool. You can see it visually. Now the automatic taper has a filler nozzle and a gate valve and on and off switch. Just going to place that onto the gooseneck. We also will add our tape. An automatic taper will hold 500 or 250 foot rolls, and we just put it onto this spool here. Keeps it in place. The tape is fed into a guide here, and the tool is loaded at this point. Now to load the joint compound into the tool, we basically put our foot on the base of the pump, and on the top of the tool we hold it here. It takes 9 full pumps to fill the tool. To prepare the tool for operation, we turn the tool on, and we have a little bit of tape here. We'll put the joint compound onto the tape. Now we're prepared, we're ready to tape joints on the wall. Okay, as we prepare to run the automatic taper on the wall, body position is very important. We want to be too far away from the wall, we want to be too close. Take about an arm length away from the wall. So put my hand on the wall and stand about in one position. This keeps me from having to move my body as I move the tool up the wall. Okay, very important. We hold the control tube, which is this piece right here, and we cup the end with our hand, and then basically we start at the bottom, slightly bending my knees, Now we stop about 3 inches from the top, gently pulling on the control tube to cut the tape. Advance the tool forward slightly to have a nice clean cut at the joint. Approach the wall. Now I run one wheel on the side. I'm not running both wheels like this. You see the material coming out. I angle the tool so that it runs up the wall, slightly angled. 3 inches, stop, cut, advance the tape to the right cut. Okay, after we run the automatic taper on the joint, we have to wipe out or clean the material out, the joint compound out from behind the tape. I use an 8-inch knife. Some people use a 6, but I like using an 8-inch knife and a pan to put the material in. So we want to start in the middle or towards the bottom. We're just going to wipe this material out nice and flat. If we have any screw holes or fasteners, we want to fill those as we wipe out. Very important to wipe out clean the tape. This is very important at the top, that as we wipe out this tape, it's nice and smooth. There's no extra material on the corner, because we're going to be running a corner tool across here, so I'll make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, running a ceiling, it's very important that we put the tool flat onto the wall, like so. And as we roll out, we want to engage our creaser wheel. So the creaser wheel is here with our lever. Then we angle the tool to run the tape out. Stopping 3 inches, cutting easily, following through on the joint. Same on the ceiling joint here. We put the tape onto the ceiling, engage our creaser wheel, run the tool at an angle, roll the tape out. So wiping this out is pretty easy. Again, we start from the middle, just kind of wipe the tape. Nice and flat into the corner. Again, really important, if you have a fastener or a screw, you want to fill that in on this coat so that it's taped and covered. Okay, before we run the corner tools, these tools are, this is your corner roller, and then we have our corner finisher attached to an extendable handles. We need to prepare them before we use them for the first time, only one time at the beginning of the day. And simply what we do is we just place this into the joint compound and in bed, or put a little bit of material onto the roller wheels. For the corner finisher, we want to take a knife, basically take this knife here, and just put a little bit of material into the casting of the tool. So it's just prepared so that the first joint that we run, the first angle, is filled in properly. Okay, we're prepared to use the corner tools. First have to use the automatic taper to run the corner. Now it's very important that we use our creaser wheel and our creaser wheel lever to properly put the tape into the corner. Okay, so we're going to start on the top ceiling angle here. We place the tool into the corner, roll it out, and engage our creaser wheel immediately. And then run along the joint, stopping 3 inches from the corner, cutting easily and placing the tape right into the corner. For verticals, it's the same. We just start at the bottom. Now, as we roll up the wall with the creaser wheel, this creaser wheel is engaged. I want to lessen the pressure on the creaser wheel as we go up the angle. Right. Again, 3 inches, stop, cut to the right angle. Now, to start the next piece, we have the tape with joint compound on it. Again, we place it right in the corner, engage our creaser wheel, and lead the tool along the joint. Again, vertical. Creaser wheel is creasing the tape perfectly into the corner. Have a nice taped angle. One more corner on the top ceiling. First tool we're going to use is the corner roller. This tool is attached to an extendable handle if you need more length. Snaps right into place. With an internal angle, we want to start in the middle of the angle. Okay, lightly press, no pressure on the tape. I'm not putting any pressure other than to just move the tool along the wall. Come back to the middle. Now we put pressure. We're moving the material out from behind the tape that we just installed. Again, starting in the middle. No pressure. Move it down along the angle. Come back to the middle. Now we're going to put the pressure onto the tape. Again, right here in the middle. You can see how we're pushing that material out from behind the tape. We're not wiping it, we're just preparing it for the corner finisher. You get to the bottom, be sure not to hit the floor with the corner roller. That way we don't pick up any debris. Yeah, I'm just back in the middle. Now what a lot of people do, and I like to do, is have a bucket of water so that this doesn't dry out before we use it again. You just place the tool into a bucket of water. Okay, now for the corner tool, again, you can extend this out to the desired height. We do have a slight elbow on this corner finisher, and the corner finisher basically moves in one direction, unlike the corner roller. The nice thing about the corner roller is that we're done taping now. We've rolled it into place. The corner roller will embed the angle as we're wiping our tape. So instead of just wiping the tape out and having regular tape where you have to run one side and then come back the next day and run the other, in one day. So we put it into the corner. We start at the one end of the tool, of the angle, and we move it along the angle at this direction. You can start at the top and go down, or you can start the direction this way and just move it along the corner. The reason why we run our flat joints first is so this intersection is dry, so we don't have any peeling of this tape coming off. So that's why we do this first, and then we do our angles second. That's the process. Okay, now we have to detail these angles, and this is typically done with just a knife and a pan. We have to clean out the corner where they intersect into the corner. Again, if you have a screw or a fastener, you're gonna have to wipe that out and clean that out. Now I don't have to wipe the rest of the angle. There's no reason to. It's wiped out clean unless I have some type of edge or some part that's not covered. Where you have a trisection here where the three meet, basically we want to wipe this out first using the top, then we come down on the side, and we wipe it this way. If I need to add any material, just put a little bit of material here. We call this starring, or cleaning out the trisection. Clean this out this way. Again, we're just trying to clean this out so it's nice and square. We're going to end up running another tool over this. We want to make sure that there's no edges, it's all nice and flat, but you can see it's embedded, or first coated as some people call it. Both sides of the tape have joint compound on it. It's going to be very little sanding, nice clean edge.
We're going to show the TapeTech nail spotter and it being filled with the loading pump. Now we have the adapter on the loading pump, but first we need to put the pump into the joint compound. So we just place it in here. No need to really prime it on this step because the material doesn't pump air into this particular tool, this nail spotter. So what we're going to do is take the tool, we're going to aim the filler into the nail spotter to fill it up. And it's visual when you can tell how it's full. To hold it, we visually look. As we pump, you can see the material is now full inside the nail spotter, and we'll go put this on the wall.
Okay, using the nail spotter is very easy. It's probably one of the easier tools to learn how to use. We have a few main parts on this tool. We have a skid here on the bottom, we have a blade, and of course where the joint compound comes out. On the back we have a pressure plate. This is where we're pushing on the material to push it out of the tool onto the wall. So the handle that we're attached to, again, it is an extendable handle. We don't need it extended here. What I want to do is certainly emphasize body position. You want to be close to the wall. We don't want to be standing way back so we're awkwardly pushing on the tool. It's very easy to push, but I want to be minimal movement. So I'm kind of close to the wall. And when I'm using the nail spotter, I always pull the bottom fastener up first, and then I'll pull the top down so that we don't have any lap marks, less sanding. This tool will only fill in the depression. It'll leave a slight amount of material in between fasteners, but it leaves a nice thin coat in between and fills in just what's necessary. So again, we'll pull the bottom up first, place the tool on the wall with the blade first, then the skid, pull it up to about my knee level, which is about here, maybe a little bit higher. And then we kind of step back a little bit from the wall, place the tool on the wall, push on the pressure plate before we move, and then move it down along the row of fasteners. At the intersecting point, we're just going to sweep off. So again, you can see very little in between. It's just filling in these spots that have where the fasteners have attached. Very easy tool to learn how to use. Now we're going to fill the TapeTech Easy Clean box. It's much like the nail spotter. We have an opening here that we're going to put the filler adapter into. Now, being that this is larger, this is a 10-inch box, and when we do the finish coat, it's a 12-inch box. It's a little bit longer, so we'll have to start at one end, and as we move across, fill up. Usually we start at one side, middle, and then to the other side as we visually see that the tool is full. So again, we just put the tool into the filler, place it onto the pump, and then when we see when it's full, we move it to the middle, and then we move to the far, in this case, left side. And we can visually see that the box is full at that point. Now, we're ready to go to the wall and use the box on the joint. All right. So now we're going to use the TapeTech Easy Clean, in this case 10-inch box, to fill in the tapered joint. You have a recess on the joint, the tape is dry, and what we're going to do is fill in the recess and we're going to taper it out on either side so when it dries it's nice and flat. When we first apply the material, it has a slight crown to it, but as it dries with the air, it shrinks into a nice flat surface. Very uniform finish. That's the beauty of the tools, but also the 10-inch and 12-inch boxes that we'll be finishing with. Body position is very important. I don't want to be too far away from the wall. In my case, I like to stand close to the wall, holding the box with the handle, and my hand on the brake. I have to apply the brake so the box doesn't move over, and I start at the bottom always. So I put the box on the wall, press on the pressure plate, and then just stand up. Now, I really only come to about this height here, so it's a little bit above my knee. I don't need to pull it way up the wall. On the top, again, a little bit of brake, but I place the box on the wall, I lean in and push on the pressure plate, and then just move the box down along the joint. When I intersect, I squeeze the brake and I sweep off. We have a nice smooth transition by using the brake on the box. Okay, when we're operating the Easy Clean box on the box handle, we want to be very careful not to get our hand in between where the box hits onto the plate here. And what we do is, it's real simple. Just keep your hand on this black part. Now, there's times when you're going to need to have your hands up here, especially when we're filling, but just keep your hand out of that area. But basically, keep your hand on this black grip. Again, we approach the wall. Move it up to about my knee. Put it on the top. Sweep off. It's a very nice finish. I like to show people how the crown adjustment works on this tool. So if we have it on 0 or 1, which is the maximum amount of material, let's just show you an example of that. So on this setting, on number 1, we have a lot of material. It's tapered at the edge, nice and smooth here. But on 3, which is a higher setting, which we will use on the finish, you'll see it's quite a bit less material. So when we do the finish coat with the 12-inch box, we're going to have less material on here, as opposed to the first coat, the embedding coat, as we call it, that's filling in, leaving a crown, but as it shrinks, nice and flat. Very uniform finish, very easy to do. TapeTech Easy Clean boxes are awesome. Okay, we're going to move to the finishing process. So the first step in the finishing process will be to use the 12-inch TapeTech Easy Clean box. This will apply the finish coat application to the wall joint. Now we're going to set this crown setting on 3. Our initial coat, or our first setting, was on 1 on the 10-inch box. So we're going to set this on 3, and we're going to see how much material it leaves. It should be a nice fine finish coat. We're going to load joint compound into the box the same way we would with the 10-inch box, and the loading pump and the filler adapter. We just load it in through here, put our foot on the base. As we fill the tool, we kind of work from one end to the other. We're full. And then we walk towards the wall. We're going to put the finish coat on. Okay, much like the 10-inch box that we used on the embedding coat, we're going to approach the wall and be kind of close to the wall. We don't want to be standing back too far because we want to have good leverage using the tool. So I want to approach the wall. I'm going to have the box brake handle in my hand, applying the brake slightly, just when I start. As soon as I put the box on the wall and start moving, I can release the brake.
keeping my hand on the brake at all times. So we start, same as the 10-inch. We're going to start at the bottom, put the tool on the wall, apply pressure up to about my knee height. That's about as maximum that we need to go. Now at the top, I want to apply the brake slightly, push the tool on the wall, start putting pressure on the pressure plate, and then move down the wall, intersecting and applying the brake at the same time. So we have a nice fine finish, both sides. It's filling in the joint. That's our finish coat. Okay, one little small detail. If I don't have to wipe out the joint with my blade, my knife, I don't want to, because I'll remove material that I want to fill in this, this joint. The only area that I have to detail will be at the very top. If you have a top corner and you have a ceiling, you want to make sure that you fill in that little small gap at the top, just to make sure that we have a nice finished joint all the way into the corner. Okay, the last process, the last step in the process is the internal angles. So if we're doing internal angles, we have a couple tools that we can use to finish the process, and it's the very last step for finishing internal or angles. Okay, we have the corner applicator, the TapeTech corner applicator. It's basically a manually push tool. You would push the material out. We use a corner finisher on this as well to finish. This is a 3-inch size. We embedded, or our first taping coat, as you remember, the first step was with the 2.5. There's certainly a 2.5 for the first, it's a choice, or there's a 3 or 3.5 for your finish application. Here we're using a 3. This tool is filled with a filler nozzle on the loading pump, and we're going to remove the duct bill here on this. Just take this off, pop it out of the way. The filler nozzle is pressed into an O-ring on the filler adapter. Put our foot on the pump, and when we attach it, we push in, and then we just pump the material through the tool. You can visually see when it's full. It comes out the end like so. Okay. Our second option is the mud runner. Mud runner is easier. It holds twice as much material. It's an assisted tool, meaning you don't have to push the pressure out. It has an internal strut that as we twist this handle, the material automatically comes out instead of us manually having to push it out. It has the same filler nozzle on here. We have a little extra feature on here that gives height. We can add to this or shorten the length of this. So if we want to make this shorter, we can just loosen these side set screws and push this up, so for confined areas. You can also open it up as well. Tighten it up. We also have an extension that you can pop on here for extra heights. So this is a very versatile tool, much easier to learn, quicker to learn as well. Now to fill this tool, we have to press the filler nozzle onto the filler adapter on the loading pump. And what we do is we just set it on here, kind of hold it at the top, hold the pump, and then fill. Just to give you an example of how this tool works, load it back in here. When we twist the handle, you can see material comes out. When we release the handle, it stops. Now, the nice thing about this mud runner is we can go slower or we can go fast. So there's variable speeds to the material that comes out depending on the need of the user. Again, we're using a corner finisher. In this case, we're using a 3-inch corner finisher. It just pops onto the end for easy application onto the wall. The mud runner is not a brand new tool. This is actually a new Mud Runner Pro. It's one of our newest tools. It's a great addition to our line. Let's walk to the wall and show you how these work. Okay, so last step of the process is finishing the internal angles. We're going to be using the TapeTech corner applicator. It's attached to an extendable handle. And we're also going to show you the Mud Runner Pro, which is newer, easier, holds twice as much material. Let's get started. So again, we have our corner finisher attached, our handle. I've extended this up slightly. You can extend it or lower it depending on your need. I'm going to start at the top angle. And we just push this into the corner. Now manually I have to push on the pressure plate and move the tool along the wall. Okay? As I move the tool along the wall, the material will come out. If I have to go back, we have to kind of stop at the end where it intersects. And we have a nice finished corner there. Now for verticals, you have to pull the bottom up much like the box. Start at the bottom, place the tool in the corner, put even pressure on the tool, and then just stand up with it. And you'll see where it's coated both sides of the corner. Now at the top, place the tool into the corner, putting pressure on the handle, and just move it down along the angle. Sweep off at the end, and you can see where we have a nice finish where it's covered both sides of the angle. Okay, so now we're going to use the MudRunner Pro. Unlike the corner applicator where we have to press, go to a point, turn around, we can go all the way down to the bottom or bottom to top, doesn't matter. Personally, I like to start at the top. If you have weight, it just helps fall down the wall a little bit easier. So again, we just walk up to the wall, place the tool, the corner finisher in the corner, nice and even, straight, and then we twist the handle slightly to start, and then you just move down along the corner. Stopping at the bottom to stop the flow. Very easy to run. Again, we're filling in both sides of our angle at one pass for a finish coat. It's the same on the ceiling. You basically put the tool up into the corner. I have a slightly different technique for this where I'll start out kind of at this angle and then I'll actually push the tool out in front of me. Again, I just twist this handle. It's very easy to twist. And just move it along the corner, stop at the end, and sweep off. Nice feature about the MudRunner, if we have to go back over the corner, let's say we have a spot with no material, we can simply put the tool in the corner, not twist the handle. We don't have to twist this. And we can just wipe out the corner again, just to smooth it out. We're not applying any more material, we're just wiping it out so it's smooth. This is an awesome tool. Okay, the last step in the process is we need to detail the internals. So we're just basically going to clean out these corners where we have extra material. The tool doesn't quite get all the way into the corner, so we're going to take a knife and clean these out. Make sure that we have a nice smooth finish. So we're ready to sand. Again, we're just going to clean these out, run them really nice and smooth. And then we're ready to sand. We have a nice finished corner. At the very bottom, we also want to make sure that there's detail there, so if our base goes down, we need to fill this in as well.
Hey guys, how are you? So now that Mark's done with his part, I'm going to try to address a few frequently asked questions that we have. Again, my name is Robbie Worrell, and I'm the head of TapeTech. But you know, we have a couple questions that always seem to come up every time we do events. I'm back in the training center, and you can kind of see here where we're at. We've got all of our tools here, and these are the walls that Mark was working on over there. So when we start talking about frequently asked questions, we'll just kind of take a couple. Since my tape always seems to wrinkle when I use the corner roller. As we talked about, this is the corner roller that Mark was talking about, and he also, when he showed us, he said, when using this after first applying your tape, you want to start with this in the middle of your thing and just barely roll up and down so it just kind of seats that tape a little bit further so that it gets it ready for the pushing of the motion of the corner roller. So your first pass, you put it in the middle, go up and down very slowly just to kind of spread and embed that tape a little bit before you start putting pressure on this tool into the corner hard and then really getting after it to really push that mud out to the sides as we go. So, okay. Question number 2 is, how much does the automatic taper weigh? The automatic taper weighs 7 pounds when it's empty. The carbon fiber version of the aluminum, the original bazooka, if you will, the original taper, weighs a little bit less. It weighs about 3/4 pound less. And when it's full, it weighs about 18 pounds when it's full of compound, joint compound, or mud, or material, whatever you want to call it. So 7 pounds empty and about 18 pounds when it's full. How high can I reach on this with the automatic taper? A couple answers to that question. The funny answer is, well, it depends on how tall you are, but the real answer is about 10 feet. So as you see here, I'm 6 feet tall. The taper runs about 4.5 feet. So if I'm 6 feet and I use the taper that's 4.5 feet, I've got a little bit of a bend in my arm, so I lose a little bit of that distance, but you should be able to run comfortably 10 feet height inside your room and inside your wall to do your thing. I think Mark addressed the next question already with what size paper tape rolls. The 250 and or the 500 foot roll both fit onto this taper with no problem whatsoever. Right here on your column, as Mark took this off and showed you at the start of the video. Next question is probably one of the most common that we get at any time. When I'm using my automatic taper, why does the tape cut at an angle instead of square? If you'll notice in the video when Mark was working with us, he took his taper up to within 3 inches of the corner and then stopped. And that's when he pulled back on the control tube or the cutter. The blade is located right inside this head. right in here. And that's why we go 3 inches, because it's actually cutting further back than where the tape is actually sitting on the wall. So you stop the taper, pull back on the cutter sleeve, if you will, and then push up that final 3 inches. If you continuously move and try to pull that at the same time you're moving, because that blade is trying to go straight across and you're moving, that tape is still being fed up, so that blade starts to cut at an angle. And it does cut both left and right. It cuts going across and coming back. So again, when you get to your 3 foot or 3 inch stop it, pull it down and cut it all the way across. Okay? Why does my corner finisher leave edges? Mark was talking about corner finishers a couple different ways. He talked about the small ones, the 2 inch and the 2.5 when you first do your taping, and then the top ones whenever at the end when you're finishing, the higher ones, the 3 or 3.5. Okay, your corner finisher leaves edges for a couple of reasons. When this is going in and it's sitting in that corner, if your corner is not square, your corner finisher is going to try to bubble or move and try to get to a comfortable point, if you will. Okay. So what you're going to do is this corner finisher will actually flex. You'll see me flexing that. And it has a spring here to create more flex. If I have to, you'll see this, and I'll engage this spring right at the very top and engage this spring on the other side. And now I have a little more flex, as you see, so that it stays consistent in that wall on the corner side to side. I like to say that as humans, we are consistently inconsistent. So we need something to help us do it the same way every single time. And that's where the corner finisher would come in. So that's the top 5 or 6 questions that we have. We obviously get more all the time. Love to take some more from you right now. So if you've got some, pop them up in the chat bar and we'll spend a few minutes taking those as well. Anything about maintenance on the product, how to change the blade on the taper, anything to that nature, let us know what you'd like to see.
Okay, Robbie, there's a couple coming in here. Where should the crown level be set on my finishing boxes?
Beautiful. As Mark talked about the finishing boxes earlier, it depends actually on which pass you're doing. So your crown adjustment is right here, like we were saying. And when Mark first did his first section, when he was just, again, embedding the tape or putting the first layer of the tape, he had this on the 0, okay? So it's not doing anything on here, because that's when the most mud comes out of this box. And the reason we want the most mud to come out in the 0 mode on our first pass is because obviously when you hang sheetrock, you have that little groove. So you want to fill in that groove the best you can with your first mode. And your mud, Mark talked about material and thickness of that material to start. When you're using your boxes, the mud shrinks obviously when you use it. So you want to have your mud a little bit thinner, so that it goes in, shrinks, and then fills up when you're first putting your box on. But as you go to do your next pass, you'll want to go in and adjust that lever. When he did the number 1 and the number 3 on the demo, that's going to take and push this down just a little bit and put a little pressure on that blade so less material comes out. So if you're doing 2 passes, we like to say stay in the 0 to the 1, and then when you do your second pass, get on to the 3 or the 4. If you're going to do 3 passes in your finishing step, you'll do 0, 3, and 5, because 5 is the absolute least amount of material that's going to go onto the work.
Can I use setting type compound in the ATF tools?
Great question. When we're talking about setting compound, I'm going to assume we're talking about fast setting or hot mud, as it's called in the industry. You can use it in the current TapeTech, but what we would say do is wash your tools immediately, because you do not want that 18 pounds of compound in this taper to seize up and be in here, because you know that fast setting compound dries in about 15 minutes. So if you don't get it totally out of the taper in 15 minutes, it's going to set up in there, and now all of a sudden you have a 25-pound boat anchor rather than an automatic taper. So one thing that TapeTech does, we offer 2 sizes of finishing boxes, a 6-inch and an 8-inch, that are absolutely only designed to do hot setting mud. You'll see they're made out of a polycarbonate, okay? And the blade is not a brass or stainless blade. It's a plastic blade that's adjustable as we go, so that when you have your fast setting mud in here and you get out in 10 or 15 minutes, it comes right out, doesn't stick to the sides, doesn't set up inside the box itself. So this is much better than using the regular material in the boxes.
Will I save on joint compound usage when using ATF tools?
Absolutely, great question. you're going to save approximately 10% of the amount of joint compound you'll use when using the automatic taping tools, because you have no waste. Think about all the times that you're actually applying that compound to the wall when you're doing it by hand, up and down. You put a coat on, you put your paper on, you recoat it again, and you wipe it away. And how much gets to the floor? If you guys will watch some videos out there on some of the best appliers, those drywall chicks who are actually ambassadors for TapeTech actually put wood or something down on the floor on the substrate before they start taping and mudding, so it catches the material. You're going to save some of that because you're not going to have as much waste when you're using automatic taping tools, other than doing it all by hand.
Last one here. Why do I get scratches in the joint compound with the nail spotter?
Great question. So the nail spotter, as we saw with Mark, again, Mark uses two sizes. When you first do your first pass with a nail spotter, it's a 2-inch. The second time is with a 3-inch. The reason you'll get scratches is that what will happen is that as you're working on that surface, the mud could dry or whatever, and it gets caught on this blade. So there's a small blade right here on this nail spotter that actually comes down. The skid plate kind of deflects itself off any extruding nail heads or screws. So that'll hit first, and then that blade comes in. But there could be a chip in the blade because it's hit a screw or a nail head, or like say, could have some dried compound or something, or some material from the paper, or possibly even picked up from the floor. Because if you remember, Mark said, don't go all the way to the floor when you're doing stuff, because you will pick up debris, because that mud's very catchy, if you will. It's very gluey. So it'll catch up any dust, debris, or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's on your tool and you're putting it on your wall.
Well, that's it for all our questions, but we have a comment coming in. Alexandra, she really appreciates this webinar because her field guys use these tools, and this is the first time they're seeing the tool being used with explanation.
Very great, Alexander. We appreciate you being here. If there's anything we can do, you see right here on the screen right now, you see my name, phone number, contact information, and then Carolina Garcia. She is my sales manager. We are here to help. We also have a way, if you have any other questions or anything on our website, go to TapeTech@TapeTech.com, and that's our general inquiries box. We look at that box all day. We normally try to get back to you within 24 hours. Any questions about the product? Is it the right product to use? Which one do I use for this? So we are available via that TapeTech@TapeTech.com 24 hours a day. Like I say, we see them, we get back with you. So again, my information is on the screen, as is Carolina's. And again, we appreciate you being here with us for the day. We'll be doing our second webinar for AWCI, or AWCI as we call it, on November 21st. There'll be an email that will go out. There'll also be a handout outside. You see the QR code at the bottom. You can register for that seminar by using that QR code. And we're looking forward to doing that, because we're going to show some new products that those of you who did or did not go to the AWCI event last year had a chance to see. But that seminar will be on our EFIS product, which is all over exterior finishing. So we're really excited about doing that one on November 21st.
That concludes our presentation today. Anything else to add, Robbie?
Just one other thing. For those of you who are just seeing the tools for the first time, is it an investment? Absolutely. But it's an investment in you and your productivity and what you're getting done. And if you'd like to try the tools before you actually buy them, like I said, this seminar is presented by TapeTech and Ames. We have 100 different Ames stores across the country. They will actually rent you tools to use so that you can see what works best for you. Do you know how to use them? Can you get used to use them? Whatever. But they can actually rent you tools to use for your job so that you can figure out which ones you want to buy from TapeTech.
Well, that concludes our presentation today. Thanks so much, Robbie, and thank you, Mark, for today's presentation and demonstration. Thank you, Ames and TapeTech, for sponsoring this webinar, and thank you to our attendees. See you next time.
Thank you, guys. See you very much.